I love this time of year when that big jolly man comes back to you. We're talking about LT Overton.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I'll talk about FanDuel in just a little bit. I want to thank you everydayers for joining every day. You know why? Because you made sports, Locked On Sports cast. Wait a minute. You made the Locked On Sports Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network there is. That's what you did, and we appreciate you. And you're the best. And you can join that everydayer club, and we'll tell you how in just a little bit. Jimmy LT Overton is back, just like we knew he would, just like I wished for when I was at Macy's the other day, sitting on that guy's lap. He wasn't dressed as Santa Claus, and it was weird, but I asked him if he could help me out, and he did. And he brought LT Overton back to the team.
Yeah, it's big, obviously, because LT Overton's a good football player. Indiana, if they have an advantage in the game, frankly, it's at the line of scrimmage. They're very good at the line of scrimmage. The defensive line, the offensive line, they're very good. Alabama needs all the help they can get up front, and LT Overton is huge help. Now, I think it's fair to say that because he's missed so much practice time, because he's missed a couple of games, he'll probably be on, what they call a pitch count. I don't think we'll see him on every snap. But, heck, he wasn't out there every snap before. Obviously, Cam Womack likes to substitute quite a bit. And I think in his absence, Keon Keeley has emerged as a playmaker, in the pass rush sense. What I like in terms of a game plan myself, if Kane is listening, assuming you're on the field for about 30, about 70 snaps most, and you hope it's not more than that, maybe LT can give you about 35 snaps. I think you get about 20 from Jordan Renaud and maybe 15 or 20 from Keon Keeley. And I like having Keon in there even early on the third and longs. I mean, those are the plays that really wipe out your defensive line anyway, the repeated pass rush. With LT Overton, you have him in there, you take him out on the third and longs or the second and forevers, and you put in Keon on those snaps, and then LT Overton and Jordan Renaud are in there on the run downs. Let me tell you, Indiana can run the football. One of the things that has really stood out to me in studying Indiana, they did a good job on the ground in their biggest games. They outrushed Oregon. They outrushed Ohio State. I mean, they run the ball. They stopped the run. They sacked the passer. They sacked Julian Sayin 4 times. They sacked Dante Moore 5 times. I mean, so they do a great job up front, both sides of the ball. Having LT Overton back is going to help negate some of their advantage up front.
Their running back, Himby, has almost 1,000 yards rushing this season. Of course, Alabama doesn't have anybody close to that. Did a crossover last night with the Locked On Hoosier guy. And unlike many of his cohorts on Twitter right now, he was very likable. I told him, I said, it is really strange that after just 2 years, one of which they were put out of the playoffs in the first round, sort of unceremoniously, Indiana has become the fan base that beats his chest harder than any fan base in college football right now. And I kind of get it. It's some pent-up aggression. They haven't ever been good, and now they're good. And, part of me is like, good for them. Also, part of me is like, hey, chill out just a minute. Nobody's talking trash, y'all. Everybody sort of likes your story, but no need to talk all this trash. There's no need for it.
I'm not offended by it. I think it's a product of their coach. I think Curt Cignetti, he's brash. He's confident. He showed up at the freaking basketball game after they hired him, saying that they're going to beat the crap out of Ohio State and all this stuff that sounded crazy at the time that would just ended up being kind of a prophecy. He's a good coach. Google him. He's famous. So I think they're sort of taking on the personality of their coach. It doesn't offend me. I'm not mad about it. I'm not upset about it. I'm just sort of amazed by it.
I'm not upset.
I'm not upset, and I don't care.
What I'm saying is,
I don't care. We're in the SEC. You know what we hear all the time?
And that's what I told him. I said, it's one thing when other SEC teams do it to us. We're kind of used to that. But, you guys were sort of like, hey, we're not asking anybody to kiss our feet. What we're saying is I thought there'd be a little more mutual respect. There is none of that.
Yeah, it's more like, hey, Alabama, how about welcoming us to the club? And we'll say, glad you're here, Indiana. Cool to see you. Instead, it's like, we're going to run you by 40. Like,
And take your women.
And that's what it's just been a couple of tweets that have said that. It's not like it's widespread in terms that I've seen. But my thing about their fans saying they're going to blow out Alabama. Hey, maybe they'll win the game. They're favored. I think it's fair to say they should win the game. They're favored to win by a touchdown. So go win by a touchdown. But this idea that they're going to beat Alabama by 40, they beat Penn State by 3. They beat Oregon by 10. They beat Ohio State by 3. They beat Iowa by 5. Why do they think Alabama is more like Purdue and Northwestern and Rutgers?
Illinois.
Actually, Alabama is more like Ohio State and Oregon and Iowa and Penn State in terms of dudes. And those are teams that you did beat, but you didn't blow them out. That's the part that I don't get, is that we're going to run you guys by 40. I think they're in for a rude awakening. I'm not going to sit here just yet and predict a big Alabama win or anything like that. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm impressed by what I've seen from Indiana, but I don't believe Indiana is going to blow out Alabama. I think it's going to be a close game one way or the other.
Well, it's like I told the guy last night, whose name escapes me right now. I'm sorry. He said, he was trying to defend him a little bit. He said, well, I think most people just believe that Indiana's going to do some stuff like stop Alabama's run game. I said, we stop our run game. You don't get any credit for that.
That's no feat.
I was like, our leading rusher has 504 yards. I think that's right. I've got it pulled up right here.
Your second leading rusher may have more yardage than Jam and Daniel Hill combined.
No doubt.
That sounds crazy. But it might be true. I'm saying that it might be true. Their second leading rusher may have more yards than Jam Miller and Daniel Hill combined.
And what I told him too was, look, yes, this is a concern of ours. It's not necessarily a concern for this year. It's not going to be fixed this year. It's too late. I mean, I think I told him it's like you have a midterm exam the next morning and somebody comes up to you the night before and goes, okay, it's time to teach you how to read so you can take this midterm. It's too late. We can't fix the running game with what we have left. We only got about a month left in college football period. So we don't have time. And that's okay. But we need to we'll fix it in the off season. That's what we're going to try and do. And if we don't fix it for the off season, then it's a real problem. But we all know it's a problem right now. Yeah. And we think Indiana's going to stop it. But I said, we do have some dudes. And he was I'll give him a lot of credit. He was very quick to admit, he said, y'all got more NFL players than we've got. Y'all got more higher ranked players. And I said, that is true. And I said, that's what I've been saying all along. But I think Indiana might have the best chemistry of any team in the country, of any team. It's not necessarily just juxtapose it to Alabama. I'm saying related to the rest of college football, no team seems to play as one cohesive unit like Indiana football. And I appreciate that.
And I wouldn't necessarily say they're dude heavy, though I do think some Alabama fans that might be taking them lightly may not realize how much NFL talent they do have. I mean, Fernando Mendoza is probably going to be the first pick in the draft. How do you get any more NFL talent than that? Overall, pick number 1. They have 3 wide receivers that I think are all going to play in the NFL. Cooper, Surratt, and Becker are all going to be NFL football players, I think. The tight end is dangerous. They're better at the line of scrimmage than most everyone Alabama's played all year long. And I tell you, D'Angelo Pons, their nickel corner, is going to be a high pick in the draft. They have, I looked at this quickly. I haven't studied the heck out of it yet. I will before next Thursday. But I believe that a reasonable projection for them is 9 players taken in the draft in April, to say nothing of guys they have coming back. So they're not low on dudes. Now, do they have the dudes that Georgia, Ohio State have? No. But they beat teams like that because, like Luke said, they play well together. They don't beat themselves. They play hard. And again, against Ohio State and Oregon, they outrushed both. They outsacked both. I would argue they out-physicaled them. And I know they only beat Ohio State 13-10. If you look at the stats, kind of wonder how Indiana didn't win by more. I mean, Indiana outperformed Ohio State in the game beyond the 3 points on the scoreboard. And again, they beat Oregon by 10 in their stadium, in famed Autzen Stadium. Good team. Having LT Overton back, huge help for Alabama because he helps set the edge in the run game. Indiana has 2 highly productive backs. That tells me that it's not the dudes, it's the scheme, it's the commitment to it, it's the blocking up front. Very balanced offense. That's what scares me about Indiana, Luke. We've played teams that run it better. We've played teams that throw it better. I don't know that we played someone that does both quite as well as they do. They run it and throw it both well, and that's what makes them difficult to defend.
Well, here's the other thing. I think their fans, in a very short period of time, gained the confidence in their team, and their team gained the confidence in their team that Alabama had for about 15 years under Nick Saban. Whereas, like, oh, we're trailing, we'll come back and win. Yeah, man, it's a little nerve-wracking, but we'll figure out a way because we always do and we always have. And when we don't, it's like, how did we not win that? I mean, it was never like we're going on a string of losses. And I think Curt Cignetti has done a good job of making Indiana buy in as a program and a fan base. Like, hey, we're supposed to win this and we'll find a way to win. Don't worry about it. Just hang on. We'll get there. And the Penn State game is a great example. And the Penn State game is sort of like, was sort of an SECS game where that is Alabama playing South Carolina. And we all know Alabama's better, but South Carolina's got some dudes. And if they put it together, they can scare you. And if you're not, committed for 4 quarters, they can screw around and beat you. And that's what Penn State almost did to Indiana. There's no doubt Indiana's better than Penn State. And just because they had to take a last-second deal to come back and beat them, that doesn't mean a whole bunch, except for the fact that, hey, this team is human.
They bleed. To
they
quote
bleed.
Rocky IV, which is kind of a Christmas movie.
It is kind of or Batman, Superman, Dawn of Justice, where Batman said, "Do you bleed?" Remember Batman? That's probably one of the only things
I watched that movie and then tried to forget it as quickly as I possibly could. I thought it was the worst superhero movie I'd ever seen.
It's not good. I immediately went to Men in Black, hoping they had one of those neuralizers that they could make.
How do you mess up Batman versus Superman? Here's how. You know how you mess up Batman and Superman fighting each other? You know how you mess it up? Batman and Superman are fighting each other. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. It's so dumb.
I'm pushing back. I'm pushing back because the Injustice series where Superman has gone rogue because Joker had figured out a way to let Superman kill Lois Lane while she was pregnant, which is very dark.
Good Lord.
I know it's very dark.
Cinemax Batman are you watching?
Yeah. Like, look, are you watching that or are you watching Narcos? Yeah. But yeah, Joker tricked Superman into killing Lois Lane, who was pregnant with his baby, and that sent him crazy, and he started to have a regime, and Batman was against his regime. And yeah, Injustice is pretty cool. And yes, it is much darker when I say it out loud like that.
I'm shook. I'm shook, as the kids say. I'm shook.
NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game. You're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, or a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked in the every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, of course, so can you. Want to remind everybody to join our Everydayer Club. I think we got the most in the entire network. That's pretty cool. And what I can tell you is all the guys who have joined are very like-minded. Not like-minded like Jimmy and me. We don't need a bunch of people like that.
No, the world doesn't need that.
They're like-minded in the way that we look and absorb Alabama athletics. This is not a play. Nobody's going to be doing any political talk. Nobody's going to be doing any, we might have pop culture references from time to time, but we're not going to be talking about TV shows. We're talking Alabama stuff. and SEC stuff and college football stuff. So come join us, lockedonbama.com/everydayer club, $5 a month, $50 for a year. And we'd love to have you. This is not some money-making thing that Jimmy and I put together. This is a network-wide thing, and this is designated for just Locked On Bama people. So please come and join us. We would love to have you. And come on. I mean, what are you waiting on? It's Christmas. Do something for yourself and for others. I don't know why that has anything to do with it.
Speaking of Christmas, special Christmas shout out to Phillips Crabtree and his 13-year-old son, Sam Crabtree. Listen all the time to the show. Thanks for listening. And Dr. Jeremy Elliott in Nashville. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys. And I hope that the 13-year-old isn't like, Daddy, I like Superman. Yeah. What happened?
Yeah. Why did those guys trash my all-time favorite movie when Batman beat up Superman? That was like my favorite movie of all time. These guys trashed it. They think they're Siskel and Ebert, even though a 13-year-old would have no idea who Siskel and Ebert are.
By the way, highly recommend checking out The Boys on Amazon. If you like superheroes sort of gone rogue and like kind of weird and updated, it's my gig, man. I dig it. All right. Couple of portal and staying in school decisions here. Alabama's going to have a lot of, what I keep looking at. I see all these jokes about how many people have decided to leave Auburn, and it's a bunch of them. I mean, Robert Woodyard, who, by the way, was committed to Alabama for a long time and flipped Auburn at the last second. And most Alabama people were pretty cool with it because he was injured his senior year. But he turned out to be pretty good this year. He wasn't like an all-star, but he was okay. He's in the transfer portal. Donovan Starr, who most people thought Alabama would get, a quarterback out of Tennessee. He ended up signing with Auburn. He's in the transfer portal. Of course, Byron Brown from USF, who Alabama has played against before, he's in the portal, and most people think he ends up at Auburn, which is fine. I mean, it's no big deal. And Auburn is losing a bunch of people. That said, my bet is whenever Alabama is knocked out of these playoffs, and hopefully they're not ever knocked out, they just hoist the trophy, Alabama's going to have some dudes in the portal, so just get ready. It's happening.
Oh, no question. I don't think it'll be a ton, but I think it'll be significant. I mean, I'll put an over-under at 10. And I won't be surprised if it's more. And I won't be surprised if it's one or two less. And I don't want to name names. I know y'all would love to like, what are the names? What are the names? I mean, some of the names I think are fairly easy to guess, like maybe a running back and a couple of receivers that I think y'all could easily guess. But I think that makes sense. But I thought it was notable that Jalen Embakwe told an interviewer, Austin from Birmingham, y'all can look that up on Twitter. Jalen Embakwe told him that he has no plans to transfer. That might surprise some people. Here's a prediction. I have not listened to the interview yet. I hope to listen to the whole thing today. And I don't know if he addressed this in the interview, so I don't know what he said. I'm just guessing here. I think Bach will move back to defensive back this spring. That's part guess, part that's just the feeling. I think he moves back to DB. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's the best way to get on the field. And let's remember, if you're like, well, don't do that. It's not like you're going to start at defensive back because Zabian is back. Dijon Lee is back. Red Morgan is back. Keon Sabb and Bray Hubbard could both be back. And now there's no spots to start. True. But Alabama plays a lot of DBs. And I think Embakwe would be the leading candidate to be the number 2 Husky behind Red Morgan, and he would play a lot. He could also be the number 3 corner. I mean, and since you're losing Damani Jackson, he could be the number 3 corner. The number 3 corner plays a ton. So I think Embakwe should move back to defensive back, and I think he will. And thankfully, that'll be at Alabama. He's the best athlete on this team that isn't making a contribution. That's got to change.
Well, and here's another thing. Maybe he can channel some of that energy into being a return guy again or something like that. I mean, look, I'm not against Jalen Embakwe having a Keon Keeley-esque rebirth. So let's hope that happens. I mean, just because he has not necessarily, panned out, I hate using that word because it sounds like he's done. He's not. Let's give him a little bit more time and let's see how it does next year. But I'm for one, would be super happy to have him back on the team. And that's another thing about Alabama versus Auburn, the difference. Again, reading between the message boards here and some other insider info, it sounds like what Auburn has done the last few years is something we all suspected, that they were really front-loading some people to make some big waves in recruiting and try and bring some bigger names in. Well, the problem is with that, if you do it that way, great. But if those guys don't pan out, it's really hard to go back to them and say, okay, we were going to give you 800,000. Now we're going to give you 250,000. They go, I'm making my 800. And if not, I'm leaving. And so I think those chickens are coming home to roost to a degree at Auburn and other places. This isn't just an Auburn thing. And so I think Alabama's approach, as you have pointed out several times, is a little different from that. And it's cost them some big names. Alabama's missed on some big names because they wouldn't pony up what some of these other people would. But I think it may lead to more cohesion and retainage as the years go by.
No, exactly. And I agree. And in terms of a guy like, let's say, I mentioned Robert Woodyard a while ago. I think Alabama's going to sign an inside linebacker out of the portal. I really think so. So Woodyard enters the portal, and a lot of Alabama fans are like, sign him, take him. Like, whoa. You're probably only going to target one guy, maybe two, but probably one guy. Is this the guy you want out of everybody that would be available from coast to coast? Let's remember, Alabama can get anybody they want. The door opens when Alabama calls. Now, you do have to have the check for a guy that's expensive, but this is not a pricey position. Alabama is offering what amounts to a starting position, and kids will take less to play for Alabama and start immediately. So I would say Robert Woodyard, I think Alabama's going to aim higher, though I do believe Woodyard's a good player. Now, this could be the game changer. What if Woodyard just wants a spot? What if a player like him's like, I just want to play for Alabama. I've got one more year, and I want to do what Nikhai Hill-Green did, for you guys, and not necessarily be the starter, but play some, help you with depth, and just play and I don't need much rev share or NIL, if any. I just want a spot. Well, that's a game changer, but I'm not going to assume that for every kid that's in the portal. I'm going to assume, as a fan or somebody that watches, I'm going to assume that every kid in the portal wants their fair market value. What am I worth? And then I'm going to make my guess as to whether Alabama's going to be interested. Would Alabama pay fair market value for this guy? Now, if they want to take less, there's no way for me to know that. Anyone listening out there, there's no way for y'all to know that. That's between the kid, his family, and his agent, and the school's recruiting him. But just going on by fair market value, I don't think that Woodyard would be the guy for Alabama inside. I think it would be something more similar to an all-conference player, and maybe the ACC or the Big 12, or even a Group of Five guy that looks like a future NFL player. I think that's what they're going to be interested in at inside linebacker.
Couple other notes. Pretty big names here for South Kakalaki. Lenore Sellers will be back, and Dylan Stewart will be back. Now, what that tells me is this. That stretch that you and I have been talking about, all right, where let's start with Saturday, September 12th. Alabama goes to Kentucky. We'll win that game. We all believe that. We're not super worried about it. But it is an SEC game in the second week of the season, something we're not necessarily used to. Then we come home, play Florida State, home for South Carolina, who has maybe the number one pick in the draft for the next draft, at Mississippi State, a place that, yes, again, we should win. It's not exactly just an easy place to go in, and there's cowbells everywhere and all that. Then Georgia at home, at Tennessee, A&M at home until you have an off week. That is a stretch, man. And again, that's where I think like Big Teners and Big 12ers don't understand. Y'all just don't get it. That is a stretch. I'm telling you. Yeah. I know y'all can make fun of Tennessee getting railroaded by Ohio State and all that. I'm talking about in-season stuff.
Yeah, I'm stealing this from Josh Pate. He made a great point because you mentioned Dylan Stewart about the biggest difference between the SEC and the Big Ten. He says, so I'm quoting Josh here, it's in my original thought, but it's 100% true. The biggest difference between the SEC and the Big Ten is that South Carolina has Dylan Stewart. When you play in the Big Ten and if you're playing against Dylan Stewart in the Big Ten, he plays for Ohio State, or he plays for Michigan, or he plays for Oregon, or he might play for Penn State. He don't play for Northwestern, Purdue, Maryland, Boston College, or Rutgers. But in the SEC, you got to face a Dylan Stewart when you play South Carolina. A random SEC school can have the number one pick in the draft because everybody in the SEC signs 5 stars. Everyone will sign like 1 5-star, or they'll have 1 5-star on their roster. That doesn't happen in the Big Ten. All the talent is congregated at the top of the Big Ten. In the SEC, it's spread from top to bottom, and you're playing first-round picks every week, and that's what you don't have in the Big Ten, or certainly not in the other leagues.
Before we go to break, the one thing that just dawned on me is like, Vanderbilt is kind of our Indiana. I mean, I don't think Vanderbilt's as good as Indiana, but I don't think they're really far away from Indiana.
No,
and so what I'm saying is, Vandy's like the 6th or 7th best team in this conference this year. I mean, it's really good. It's historical for Vandy. But that's what we're talking about. I mean, everybody loves to say we're elitist and whatever. And we kind of are. But, I mean, we got our reasons.
Oh, you accidentally hit mute. I don't even know why you do that. It shouldn't even count. That was like
I thought I was unmuting and I was remuting. But anyway, that's really kind of a bad way to have a defense about something. Like, Luke, people think you were a jackass. Well, I am a jackass. That's my defense. Wait a minute. That doesn't – we think we're elitist. Well, we are. That
the truth, okay, the truth is a defense to all defamation claims.
That's very true.
Defamation claims. The truth is a defense.
So I've got on here Indiana, because you brought it up, Indiana's rush O and rush D.
Yep.
And, I mean, first of all, their rush offense is clearly better than our rush offense. That is not up for debate. I would be willing to bet our rush defense is at least as good as their rush defense.
I think they'll be surprised that, we had a couple of games where the numbers kind of got skewed right out of the gate. Florida State rushed for a lot of yards. Yeah, Vanderbilt had a really good half against Alabama on the ground. Other than that, Alabama hadn't really given up much all year. And I do think Indiana's going to find the sledding pretty tough against Alabama's defense. But I'll bring this up primarily because I've never been so sure that Alabama's about to get outrushed as I am in this game. I mean, I felt that way before Alabama played Missouri this year too. But I do think that Indiana is going to have more rushing yards in this matchup than Alabama, and sometimes that's a tell as to who won the football game. What Alabama's got to do in this game is not concede anything. Don't concede a yard. But what Alabama has to do is go into the game assuming they're going to have to win it another way. And, Julian Sand did have a pretty nice game against Indiana. Dante Moore, I mean, there's been quarterbacks that have had pretty decent days against Indiana. But Alabama's not going to run the ball for a lot of yards in this game. I don't think Indiana's going to torch Alabama on the ground, but they're liable to have some success. And I think it's going to make this game difficult for Alabama. But Alabama's going to have to play around the fact they're likely to get outrushed. Again, Indiana outrushed Ohio State. Indiana outrushed Oregon. When they've played teams with dudes, they've still managed to outrush them. That's likely to happen again, but Alabama can do some things to offset that, like use the passing game as an extension of the run game. And what I would really like to see, and I know every Alabama fan listening would like to see this, is Alabama's wide receivers not only catch the ball, that would be nice, but break loose. We need some big plays in this game. You're just not going to line up and mow them over and drive the ball 80 yards repeatedly. You're going to have to score or move the ball via chunk plays. Alabama did some of that against Oklahoma, who's a very good defense. They're going to have to do even more of it against Indiana because Indiana's not going to allow Jam Miller and Daniel Hill to have season-high numbers in this game.
Well, I think Alabama, after the first quarter, did a great job of really confusing Oklahoma in the okay, we're pretty sure y'all going to pass all the time. And even when we all thought they'd pass, they did a draw to Daniel Hill, got 40-something yards. And I thought that was good timing for that play because nobody really expected it. While it's a pretty mundane play, I think for an average team with an average rushing attack, for us, it's like, oh, my God, they still tried to run the ball? What the hell was that? And so we got to have some plays like that. I think this could also be another game, frankly, and we'll talk about it more when we get to predictions later next week. I think this could be another game where Alabama gets down early by a score or two. It wouldn't shock me. It seems like it takes us a moment to feel out some of these games. And That's what we have to do.
It won't be, you'll be there being loud because, as we know, you have no voice at the end of games. So you'll be there being loud. But I don't think it's going to be a loud, raucous environment, or certainly not in the Norman, Oklahoma sense. It's probably going to sound more like church than the game in Oklahoma, just because the Oklahoma game was just insane bedlam constantly, and a jet, a Boeing 757 taking off. I think the Rose Bowl crowd's going to be a little bit more like a Super Bowl crowd. I do think Indiana fans will outnumber the Alabama fans, and they'll make some noise. But I don't anticipate being a super noisy environment. Maybe that will help Alabama not get into a hole. I think DeBoer is going to talk a lot about the start because the starts have been bad. He's going to talk a lot about the start. But I'm with you, Luke. I don't think getting down 7-0, 10-0 is going to be the end of this game for Alabama at all.
People are going to treat it that way because they hadn't been watching this squad. I mean, shoot, we were down 21-0 to Georgia, and then it was 21-7, and we go for it on 4th and whatever in our own red zone. If we make that, I'm not saying we come back and win. I'm saying it probably ends up being a lot closer because we gave them a short field. Everybody's scoring on us, by the way, with the short field, it seems like.
Yeah, and I'm not, Georgia's the SEC champion, the best team in the SEC. And I'm predicting that Georgia wins the national championship, frankly. But I'm with you. Had Alabama punted the ball there or gone for it and made it or made that 4th down play, I don't think Alabama would have won the game. I don't. But Georgia wouldn't have won 28-7. The score would have looked different.
Finally, it dawned on me while we were talking, the SEC is sort of Alabama and Georgia is sort of like Batman and Superman fighting, and Indiana shows up as Aquaman. They goes, look at these two losers. And now Georgia and Alabama and the rest of the SEC and the rest of the Hall of Justice are going to come over there and beat them up. I'm sort of hoping that's what happens.
Don't get me started on Aquaman. Just the worst hero. He swims fast. That's a hero. He swims fast.
He talks to fish. What are they going to tell him?
Yeah. If we're being threatened with foreign invasion, do we call Michael Phelps?
We might. Just send him out there because he looks kind of like an alien. That'd be kind of
The Russians are coming. We need you, Phelps. We need you to swim from here to there really fast.
I do sort of like that idea the same way I like the idea back in 2006 when Alabama had an offensive lineman I really didn't like. And I said one day that I wish we wouldn't put him out there. And they're like, we got to put 11 out there. I go, no. Put nobody else out there. Just put a sack of manure that's on fire right where his spot is. And at the very least, somebody'd go, hey, why is that sack of manure on fire right there? And it may cause them to hold up 1 second as opposed to him, which was a human turnstile, which turned people right into – he propelled defenders into our quarterback. At least the crap fire wouldn't do that. That didn't make a lot of sense.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy crap fire, everybody.
We all – chestnuts roasting over a crap fire. All right. Merry Christmas, everybody. We will talk to y'all. I'm going to run the crossover tomorrow, and then Jimmy and I'll be back Friday. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide. Merry Christmas.